you like to read the first verse?
Vayomer Hashem el Moshe Bo el Paro Piani hifadati et libo viet lev avadav lemaan shiti ototai
Ototai.
ele bekirbo. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Go to Pharaoh, for I have hardened his heart and the hearts of all his courtiers, in order that I may display these my signs among them, and that you may tell your children and your children's children how I made a mockery of the Egyptians and what signs I wrought among them, that you may know that I am the Lord." I went too far.
Mhm.
Okay.
Right. So, according to this verse, what is the purpose of um, of the plagues and the continuation of the plagues and the prolongation of this process? Because this is a question often asked by rabbis and by commentators, mostly rabbis. Why do we have to have 10 plagues? Well, God could have just dealt away with the Egyptians in one plague. Why should we? Why is God dividing it into 10 plagues? Right? So here we have some of the answer for that. And what is the answer in this verse?
That you may know that I am the Lord.
Right. So which particle, guys, in the verse, and we'll see then the next verse as well. You know what? Let's read the next verse and then we'll talk about that particle um, in greater detail. So N, would you like to take?
Yes, sir. Lemaan shiti ototei
Ototai.
ototai ele bekirbi bo. Ach so, das war das vom vorherigen. Oh, sorry. Ja. Ulmaan tİsapēr
tЄsapēr.
tİsapēr beaznei.
Be'oznei. This is a kamatz katan, as it is in a closed, unaccented syllable. The accent, as you can see, is on the last syllable. So be'oznei.
beaznei bincha uben bincha et asher hat alalti bemitzrayim ve'et ototai asher samti vam vida vida etem. Yeah?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Ki ani Adonai.
English.
Okay. Warte.
And that you may tell.
And that LЄma as.
Here.
Well,
And that
yeah,
you may
that you
tell.
may tell
Yeah,
your
go ahead.
children and your children's children how I made a mockery of the Egyptians and what signs I wrought among them, that you may know that I am the Lord.
Right. So now going back to the question that we've mentioned before, which particle here in the Hebrew expresses the purpose of this prolongation of the 10 plagues rather than one? And let's go to Israel.
I have a question.
Yeah. What's the question?
The past tense here, I've hardened his heart. Why doesn't it say I will harden his heart?
Oh, because they are in the process, okay, of having already smitten Pharaoh with 7 plagues. So Moses is possibly wondering, okay, God did all of that, and still Pharaoh is unwilling. So what purpose do I have in going to Pharaoh again? Think about it. How stubborn can one be not to release the people after 7 plagues? And moreover, how uh how fruitless, how uh unreasonable it would be for someone to try to convince someone to do something he didn't do after having received these 7 plagues. So God has to explain to Moses, why has Pharaoh not released the people so far, and why he is sending him again to Pharaoh after 7 plagues. So this is why we have this explanation, this clause that starts with Ki ani הכבדתי את ליבו ואת לב עבדיו. It was I that made his heart and the heart of his servants heavy. אני הכבדתי את ליבו ואת לב עבדיו. Okay? And yes, Susanna?
I was trying to find out which word translates to mockery. In a sense, that is what he did, in that each of the plagues, do they not sort of take a poke at one of Egyptian gods?
So that's another way to look at it, to find the connection between the 10 plagues and symbols in Egypt, symbols of power and divine power. Definitely something that we're going to touch on today. Okay. Specifically with a theme of the Nachash or the Tanin, that is common in Egypt. Okay. So definitely there is something in that. Remember last week we've talked about Dayenu. Okay, and one of the lines in Dayenu is Ilu asa bahem shefatim velo asa beloehem Dayenu. If he just have done these judgments, executed these judgments against the Egyptians and not against their gods, okay, would have been enough for us, okay? But as you've mentioned, okay, God is operating with these miracle not just against the Egyptians, but also against their gods, as this idea that God is superior to the gods of the Egyptians. There is an explicit mentioning of that, right? In chapter 12, okay, in the parasha, ובכל אלוהי מצרים אעשה שפטים, אני Adonai, and I will make these judgments against all of the gods of the Egyptians. Again, Ani Adonai, with the theme of I am the Lord. Okay, and that's part of that struggle, no doubt. But, you could have done it also in one strike. Okay. Or again, the idea of 10 plagues, pretty much like the idea of 10 commandments, and 10 times God says Vayomer Elohim in the creation account. All of these sets of 10, okay, are presenting a process, okay, and prolonging it And because of that prolongation, we have to have Moses, first of all, convinced by God to come to Pharaoh and explain also why Pharaoh is not releasing the people. This obviously takes us to the next level of philosophical discussions. If it is God who is hardening the heart of Pharaoh, or making it weigh, hichbadeti, literally, what is the meaning of the Hebrew word kaved?
It's heavy, isn't it?
Heavy, right. This, by the way, is very, very strong in the Egyptian tradition. Sometimes, in order to better understand the Torah or the Tanakh, we have to know, not just sometimes, it's oftentimes, it's always, in order to really understand, we have to know the idea and the context behind these words. So kaved is heavy, and hichbadti et libo, I've made his heart heavy. And here in the translation we have, I have hardened, okay, his heart. But literally, I've made his heart heavy. To us, to have a heavy heart means different things, right? In English, in modern English, when you say heavy heart, you mean someone who was not determined, who was doubting something, who was doing something with reservations, right?
Yeah.
Or sad.
With a heavy heart, said while they're said, okay? It's not to be stubborn. It's not to be sinful, right? And the translation here has hardened his heart, which is contextually correct, but literally it's inaccurate. The idea of making the heart heavy is related to Egyptian culture, okay? This is presenting that concept of weighing the heart. You can see the heart is on the left part of these scales, okay? And it is weighed against, do you see what's on the right hand side?
A feather.
A feather, that is correct. Okay, so according to the Egyptians, after 120, okay, in after the death of a person, okay, they would go up and they would weigh the heart, okay, and if the heart was heavy, it means that he had sin, okay, and the if it was heavier than a feather, then it is consumed by this demon, okay. That's the again, like in the Tanakh, like in biblical philosophy, like in biblical world, the heart was not just a blood pump, and it wasn't just for emotions, it was also for thinking, okay. And this shows you this cultural world where the biblical Hebrew actually reflects that Egyptian context, okay. So God has to convince Moses to go and explain why Pharaoh is unconvinced, even though he and the Egyptians have received so many plagues so far. They're still not releasing the people, letting the people go, and the purpose of these is presented by the particle. Which particle, guys?
I'm not sure what you mean by
Which Hebrew word presents the reasons.
Lěman.
Right. Lēmān. In both cases, we have the word lēman, this particle lēman, that functions as a conjunction introducing the purpose, okay, of these actions. Okay? למען שיתי אותותי אלה בקרבו, ולמען תספר באוזני בנך ובן בנך את אשר התעללתי במצרים ואת אותותי אשר שמתי בם.
Ah, wenn ich groß bin, kann ich das auch so wie du.
Yeah.
What does
Very
allow
good.
mean?
We get an online German translation. Yeah, Susanna, you were saying?
What does allow, it's hit alalti. What does
It
allow mean?
alalti. We'll get to it alalti in a second. I want to focus a bit about on this leman because it is presented in both these verses and presents the purpose of these actions. Leman. As with Hebrew words, last week we've talked about particles that have the kaf. We've talked about kidei in the context of our discussion about dayenu. So lema'an is composed by combining the lamed preposition with the word ma'an. Okay, so we have le-ma'an, which can be used in various ways, but most commonly indeed presenting, here you can see lema'an followed by a yiktol, leman followed by an infinitive form, okay? Usually to present the purpose. So in order to, okay? Leman shiti ototai ele bekirbo, ulma'an tessaper, okay? So that's the idea. It may sometimes be that we have lema'an as presenting the reason for something. Okay, Moses is saying to the people in early in the beginning of the book of Deuteronomy chapter 3, "Vayit'aber Adonai bi le'manchem." God was angry at me, le'ma'anchem, because of you guys. Okay, so leman, while usually has the sense of purpose, sometimes has a sense of reason, cause. Okay, because of you, lema'anchem. Okay, so that's lema'an, combining the lamed preposition. People don't think about it because it becomes part of the word. So when they see the word lema'an, they don't think about the word ma'an and the particle lamed. Okay, but they think about these as one. Leman shiti ototai ele bikirbo. Now we are moving on to hit alalti. You were asking about the word hit alalti.
Yeah.
And that is here the word that expresses that mockery. Okay, it is, since it is not just a matter of functionality to bring out the people, okay, but it's a matter of the idea of establishing that relationship between God and the gods of the Egyptians in the mind of the people and shaping the people's perceptions, both Israel and Egypt, in the question concerning the relationship and the struggle, if you will, between the gods of the Egyptians and the gods of the Hebrews. We have here hit alalti, and it's not just to make those mockeries, but rather lema'an tessappēr. Okay, so we have tessappēr. You can see this is a second person masculine singular. We can see that tav at the beginning and nothing at the end. The root is samech, pei, and reish. And what is the binyan?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Very good. This is the PL binyan. What is the difference between the PL and the kal when it comes to the root samech pe and reish?
You
The
have a
kal,
dagesh,
come again?
the dagesh in the middle letter.
Sure, these are the morphological differences, and you're right to mention them. Right? We have the
Emphasizes the verb. Emphasizes
okay.
the verb.
Sometimes the PL is emphasizing the verb. So we have the dagesh in the second root letter and the vowel following the first root letter, as you can see here on screen. As far as the use of the verb here, there is a difference in English, okay, as well as in German. We had some German earlier today. In English, how do you say? What's the common word for when you're numbering things? Okay, when you're making calculations and you want to number 1, 2, 3, you're counting, right? You're counting. Another word for telling a story is recounting. Okay, so count and recount. Okay, we have uh, in both English as well as German, Zahlen and Erzahlen, and in Hebrew there is a connection between telling a story and counting. Okay, that's in Hebrew, that difference or that connection is marked by the binyan, while in the kal binyan, okay, tispor, if we were to have the same verb but in the kal, okay, if we were to have the same verb just in the kal, we would have had you will count. Tessaper, you will recount. Okay? So that's תספר, באוזני בנך ובן בנך את אשר התעללתי במצרים, התעללתי. Okay? This verb has to do with making mockery, ואת אותותיי אשר שמתי בם, and again the purpose is וידעתם כי אני אדוני. We've talked about the idea of you shall know that I am the Lord, and how all of these are related to the knowledge of the Lord.